After.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So, the title of the class is The Customs of the 3 Weeks, but there's not really an hour worth of conversation on the customs of the 3 weeks. So, we'll first talk about the fast itself. There's a lot to talk about the fast itself, and then we'll get into the 3 weeks as well. We'll cover that as well.
Does a chassan have to fast Sunday?
So, since it's pushed off, he only fasts half a day.
Saying he may miss the chassan gets married tonight.
What's that? Right. So it's the fast is not being observed on the 17th this year. It's being he fasts half a day. Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay. So your Zayin B'Tammuz is one of 2 fasts that we actually announced. The custom of the Sephardim, based on Maran Shulchan Aruch, is before Musaf. We announced the fast with a short paragraph that begins Ahenu Beit Yisrael Shema'u. The Ashkenazim don't have this custom, but we have it based on Maran, so we announce it. We only announce this fast, the 17th of Tammuz, and Asar B'Tevet. Why only those 2? We have 6 fasts during the year. If you count Yom Kippur and you count Ta'anit Esther, altogether there's 6. So the reason why we don't announce the other ones is because the other ones are well known when they're coming. Like the Tisha B'Av, it's after 9 days, and the week in which it falls, and so on and so forth. No need to announce it. Or you have Som Gedaliah. It's right after Rosh Hashanah. You go right after Rosh Hashanah, you go into it. Or Kippur. You already had the month of Elul, Silihod, Rosh Hashanah, Zerimet Teshuvah. So all the others are pretty much well known. Purim, Ta'anit Esther, it comes right with Purim the day before. So there's no need to announce those. But Shiva B'Hasar B'Tammuz comes upon you. It's the summertime. You're not. There's no observances leading up to it. Or Asar B'Tevet, just the middle of the winter. No observances leading up to it. So therefore, our custom is to announce those fairs. So this year, it comes out the 17th of Tammuz. Actually falls on Shabbat. So when it falls on Shabbat, the fast is pushed to Sunday. So we're actually going to fast on the 18th of Tammuz this year. So there's the rabbis taught us that there's 5 tragedies occurred on the 17th of Tammuz, which is why we are fasting. So one is when Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the first set of luchot, of tablets, and he broke them. That was on the 17th of Tammuz. That's 40 days after Shavuot. Another tragedy that occurred is then the times of the first Beit HaMikdash, they stopped giving the daily sacrifice. In the second destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, the walls of the city were breached.
Why they stopped giving the sacrifices?
The enemies didn't want them to do it. They were being pressured and stopped. They're bringing Avodah Zarah there, and they no longer were able to do it. And you have Apostemos, a Greek ruler, burned the Torah that day. And they also, on the 17th of Tammuz, an idol was placed in the sanctuary. So because of all of these things that happened on the 17th of Tammuz, we have a fast day. So the fast day is not just to remember what happened. The fast day, it's a medium for self-introspection, meaning so that we'll repent. Meaning when you're fasting, it's not just don't eat and don't drink, but then just have your mind on other things, mundane things. A person could just watch the ball game or sleep the whole time. He's not really accomplishing the purpose of the fast. The purpose of the fast is to wake you up, right? To be more introspective, to study maybe books of Musar, ethical teachings, things words of rebuke, so that we improve and we merit the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash b'mehera b'yameinu. Okay, so now the fast starts at dawn and it ends at nightfall. So dawn is the subject in halakha of a great disagreement. There's many ways to calculate dawn. So the main times that it could either be based on 72 minutes, it could be based on 96 minutes, it could be based on 90 minutes. The custom in our community is to base it on 72 minutes. But even if you base it on 72 minutes, there's different ways to calculate the 72 minutes. There are some synagogues in our community that just count 72 ordinary minutes. right? Nothing, no adjustments, seasonal, geographical. An hour and 12 minutes on the clock before sunrise, that's when they start fasting. There's others that say no, if the day's longer, then it's more than 72 minutes. If the day's shorter, then it's less than 72 minutes. That's the general custom in our community, is to do it based on the length of the day. However, that's not the most scientifically accurate way to calculate dawn. Now we have calendars that are put out, Luach Zmanei Hayom, and other calendars, primarily put out by the Ashkenazim, and they base the calculation of 72 minutes on how many degrees the sun is below the horizon. And that's really the scientifically accurate way to calculate the 72 minutes. And the reason for that is because dawn is not later in the winter, right? If you do the length of the day, so in the winter you have a shorter day, so you're making dawn be much closer to sunrise than it would be in other parts of the year. But that's not scientific reality. It's really the shortest. It's the dawn is closest to sunrise in the spring and the fall. And it's a little longer in the winter and even longer in the summer. So if you do the customary way based on the length of the day, so in Brooklyn this year, the fairs would start at 4:10. Right, but if you do it a little more accurate, more scientifically accurate time, would be 3:56. So it's a difference of 14 minutes between calculating 72 minutes based on
5:36 is the mates.
I understand that, but we're not doing an hour and 12 minutes. We're adjusting it. We're adjusting it geographically because we're further from the equator than Jerusalem, and seasonally, right? In the summer, it's longer than 72 minutes. I mean, the shortest time. We're not doing Zmaniyot. If you want to do Zmaniyot, it's 4:10. Or if you want to do it astronomically, being scientifically correct, it would even be earlier, 3:56.
Can I ask you a stupid question?
Ask any type of question.
Why is time so important?
What do you mean, why is time so important? When do you want to keep Shabbat?
Anything.
Shabbat is based on time. Holidays is based on time. Minhagim Arbit is based on time. Your whole religion is based on time, right?
Yeah,
you only have a certain amount of time to say Shema in the morning.
You mean if I pray Minhag late, God's not going to hear me?
So if you miss the time, you have to say Arbit Shetayim.
You're saying I have to, but
that's
you think Hashem is not going to hear me?
He'll hear you when you do Arbit Shetayim and you follow the rabbis and you follow what they established. That's how it goes.
Follow the rabbis is always the answer.
100% the answer.
We're talking about time. Where did Rabbeinu Tam come in? We don't follow it, but where did that come in from?
Rabbeinu Tam was reconciling two different sugyot in the Gemara. We have a sugya in Masechet Shabbat and a sugya in Masechet Pesachim, and they seem to contradict each other, and he reconciled it in a certain way that would explain that it takes 72 minutes after sunset for it to be fully night, for it to be nightfall.
So I got it.
Right, so our custom is not like that. Our custom is like the Geonim. What's that?
The Mechaber passes like the Rabbeinu Tam.
He does, but in this case, the custom is not like Maran.
But I'm saying he usually passes like the Rabbeinu Tam.
In this case, he does. Not all the time. Not in all cases. In Seta Kakavim he is, but
nobody follows him.
Our custom is not like, it's an exceptional case.
Why not?
Because there was already a custom in place prior to him establishing this law in Shulchan Aruch.
The same thing.
What's that?
The Ramah says the same like the Mechaber.
He also says 72 minutes, right? But the definitely the custom of the Middle Eastern Jews from the top period of the Geonim, which is predates Maran by 700 years, is already to do it based on 13 and a half minutes or 18 minutes after sunset. That's nightfall.
That's not, even though in New York it's still daylight.
So we adjust it. You can adjust it for New York. If you go on Luach Zmanei Hayom and you do it based on degrees, they'll tell you when it's 13 and a half minutes in New York, when it's going to be more than 13, but what's the equivalent, or when it's 18 minutes in New York. So it'll be longer than 18. What's that?
For the end of the time, how long do you wait?
So the community, many people in the community, since the fast is rabbinical, right? So they just ended 20 minutes after sunset. And the reason for that is that more than covers you based on the opinion of 13 and a half minutes after sunset in Israel. So 20 minutes in New York is more than 13 and a half minutes after sunset in Israel. Right? There's a little stricter opinion even in the Geonim of 18 minutes. Right? So this year, this fast in Brooklyn, sunset is 8:24. Right? So if you just want to go with the 20 minutes, so 8:44, 8:45 you can eat. That's based on 13 and a half. But if you want to go with the
20.
What? 20 is taking all the considerations, geographical and seasonal, for the 13 and a half minute opinion in Maran Shulchan Aruch.
But we
Right?
didn't do 20 in the winter. We just do 20.
So because 20 will cover 13 and a half all year round. So it's a round number. It's an even number. You don't have to think about it. If you want, but the truth is now, because you have Luach Zmanei Hayom and you can get it online, you can see the exact time for every single day of the year in any city in the world. Right? But they don't do that. They do 20 minutes. But if you really wanted to see it, you could look it up.
13 and a half?
You could look up what 13 and a half minutes would be any day of the year, any city of the world. The equivalent of 13 and a half.
After sunset, or are they basing it? It's Maniot and sunset?
It has nothing to do with Zmaniyot.
So it's just sunset.
It's
Purely astronomical.
It's basically telling you the equivalent of, let's say it was 13 and a half minutes after sunset in Jerusalem, and the equinox, right? How many degrees would the sun be below the horizon that day? Let's say, I don't know exactly what it is, but just for argument's sake, let's say it's 4 degrees. So you can go on a website and it will show you what time 4 degrees the sun is below the horizon in your city any time of the year. So that would be the equivalent of 13 minutes. Okay.
How do
So,
they estimate it before the clocks? How do they know when Shabbos and Yom Tov, how do they know?
do it by observation.
It was cloudy, what did they do?
So they wait until there's no doubt. You know, they
Very
wait
far.
extra. Yeah, they would make extra.
Didn't have
They
a-
would wait
didn't
extra
have
till
a
the
wristwatch.
till there's no doubt, till it's dark enough that you're sure that there's
They
no
count
doubt.
the stars. They count the stars.
Right. So the equivalent of 18 minutes on this fast is 8:48. So if you wait another 4 minutes, you covered the Shitat Geonim to the more stringent opinion. You don't have to do that. It's just a Umrah. It's just a stringency. Okay. All right. So now, if you want to get up early, and you want to eat before 3:56, so you have to make a condition, because normally people, when they go to sleep, they don't get up and eat before 3:56. So if you went to sleep without saying anything, it's like you accepted the fast, because it's not normal to get up at 3:30, 3:45, and have breakfast. So if a person does want to get up and want to have something before, they should make a condition before they go to sleep. So let's say they wanted to make the condition and they forgot to make the condition. So Ashkenazim are lenient with drinking even without a condition. Kanya Yosef says if even a Sfaradi, if he wants to be lenient with drinking, if he was intended to make the condition and he forgot, yesh al mali smoke. He has upon what to rely. But
What is the halacha according to you? Let's see, the time has started already, and you drank a coffee or water, you made a bracha, what do you do?
take a little sip.
That's what you go.
Yeah.
I think by us, we don't do anything.
What do? You say Baruch Shem Kivod Malchut Olam V'Ayad, and
It's
that's
not
it.
like as if it's a deraisa, what you were over or not.
So Chamadia says you take a little sip or a little taste, and then to avoid the berachah levatala, and you continue fasting. And since you only had a very small amount, you could still say anenu in the amidah because you had a small amount.
I think by us, we don't do it, drink anything.
Right. Okay.
Drink
All
my
right.
wife is very important.
Right. Right. So you have to have the condition if you want to eat. If you forgot the condition, you can't eat.
What's the condition? Let's say you set an alarm. Is that a condition? And
No,
never
you just
set
say
an alarm?
you just say before you go to sleep, I'm going
Okay.
to sleep, but I intend to get up tomorrow before dawn and
Okay.
to eat and drink. And the truth is, even if you don't think you're going to get up, but if you might get up, cover
You
yourself.
say it before, you make it tonight. I'm
Yeah.
not all the time.
Right.
Can I make the condition right now?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah, why not?
Nah,
Why not?
because it's too far away from the
You
action.
say Hatarah for the whole year, so to speak.
Yeah.
You'll forget about it someday, that's why.
You want to make a condition at the beginning of the year? Every time I go to sleep before a fast, I'm not intending to accept the fast. Maybe it would work. I don't know. Seek a second opinion. Okay. So now, when it comes to these fasts, Yozayin b'Tammuz, Asara b'Tebet, Som Gedalia. So these fasts, you're allowed to wash yourself on them. You could take a hot shower. Right? Ashkenazi might be stringent with the hot shower, but the Sfaradim can take a hot shower. You could wear leather shoes if you want to put any cream or oil. Marital relations are not forbidden on these fasts. Right? It's only Kippur and Tisha B'Av where we have all the stringencies. Also on these fasts, like we said, Shiv'asar b'Tammuz, Asara b'Tebet, and Som Gedalia. So pregnant and nursing women are not obligated to fast. Not even part of the day. They could eat from the beginning of the day. The poskim say it's not appropriate to indulge in indulgent type of eating like cakes and ice cream and these types of things, but they eat food that's nourishing, bread, whatever they eat with bread, cheese, fish. If they need meat to be healthy, they could eat meat, whatever they need to keep themselves healthy. So the question comes up, and there's a difference of opinion on the poskim, what happens if a woman gave birth and she was nursing? She nursed for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. Now she stopped nursing. If it's within 24 months of the childbirth, do we say that she's exempt from fasting, or does she have to complete the fast? So Chacham Yosef's opinion is that if she's feeling good and she can complete the fast, she should. It's only if she's physically nursing, she doesn't fast. She's not allowed to be stringent upon herself. But she's not nursing anymore, so she tries to fast. Right? If she can complete the fast, very good. But if she finds it difficult, she could stop the fast in the middle. Right? She's not obligated to complete the fast if she's suffering during the fast. What happens if somebody, you asked if somebody made a beracha, right? What do they do? So we said taste a little bit. That's Chacham Yosef. What happens if a person eats by accident on the fast? Right? They forgot it was a fast. It could happen. You come home, you open the fridge, you pour a glass of juice like you normally do, you make the beracha, you drink the juice, then your wife walks in and starts yelling at you. What are you doing? Fast day today. I forgot. Right? So what's the halacha? So continue eating. I thought you meant continue eating, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the halacha is no matter how much you ate, no matter how much you drank, as soon as it's pointed out to you or you realize on your own that it's a fast, so you stop eating right away, stop drinking right away, and you fast the rest of the day. You don't have to fast a different day in place of it. That counts as your fast. So really, whether or not you say anenu depends on how much you ate or drank. Right. So if you had an ounce of food, or Chacham is even a little more lenient and said up to maybe a little over an ounce and a half, you could still say anenu in the Amidah. Yehuda.
Yeah, if you forget and you start eating, you have a whole meal, don't you exchange it to another day?
Yeah, Chacham says no. You just stop and that's you. You continue fasting and that's it. You don't have to fast another day in its place. That's it. You stop and you continue eating.
Brushing teeth is allowed?
So you're allowed to brush your teeth, but you just be careful. You put less than 3 ounces of water in your mouth when you rinse out. What?
No,
And you bend down a little bit.
But Tisha B'Av, no, right?
So Tisha B'Av, if somebody's very
Comfortable.
Istanis, yeah, very
Finicky.
they're very finicky, very particular, right? So he might be able to be lenient. Yesh al mali smoch.
Good.
Okay. Not on Kippur though. Not on Yom Kippur. Kippur is the Oraita, so you can't.
There was one time they allowed the little toothbrushes that was no water.
No water? Okay. Then you're not eating. If you're not putting any water on it, that's something else. Right. So what about if a person gets like a headache or some other pain on the fast day? So you could take pills that don't have flavor, like a Tylenol or an aspirin, without water. Right? If a person's lying down in bed already, so you could even take a little water. But if he's walking around, So if he could swallow the pill without water, he could do it.
Does the Saturday push-off make it more lenient?
Really, it makes it more lenient, like for the hatan and the kala, or it makes it more lenient for if there's a brit milah that day, for the abi haben and the sandak and the mohel. They only fast half a day.
But there's no weddings now. After
There's weddings now.
Now, but
So you could have a hatan on Sunday.
right.
Somebody gets married tonight or
right.
tomorrow night, anytime this week. So you can have seudat hatan v'kala.
Via Ben or Mohel, he can break the fast in the morning, right?
No, they fast half a day.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Bris is the same thing.
So for the brit milah, it's the father of the baby boy,
Sandik.
the sandak, and the mohel fast half a day. Right, we'll read exactly what they do. Kamad Yosef is lenient with restaurant owners opening on the fast day, even though people are coming in. It's a kosher restaurant, but they could be pregnant, they could be nursing, they could be sick, right? Sick people are not obligated to fast. It could be mothers buying food for their children that are under bar bat mitzvah. So therefore he says, since there's a lot of people that are allowed to eat that day, so he allows the restaurants to open that day. Okay. So children are not obligated to fast at all. Hold, even if it's the day before their bar mitzvah, the day before their bat mitzvah, they don't even have to fast part of the day. He says, well, first of all, we don't want to educate them to fast for the Beit HaMikdash because we have hope that it will be rebuilt by the time their bar or bat mitzvah. And also, as we said, the fast is to awaken us to our sins. Children are not really obligated for their actions yet. So between the fact that they're not obligated for their actions yet, and it's also difficult for them physically to fast, so we don't burden them even to fast part of the day. When it comes to Yom Kippur, it's proper to train the children at least to fast in the morning, depending on the age and the ability of the child, to try to fast a few hours at least in the morning. But with the fasts for the Beit HaMikdash, which are all rabbinical, they can eat from beginning in the morning. They don't have to try to fast at all. Okay, so we were talking about the Brit Milah. If you have the father of the baby, the Mohel and the Sadak. So Kamad Yosef writes, if the fast falls on its proper time, right? It doesn't fall on its proper time this year, but when it does fall on its proper time next year, hopefully we won't have it next year, but let's say we're having it next year based on our calendar, it's going to fall in its proper time, right? So then they also have to fast, right? They have to fast the entire day, including the hatan and the kala, right? If the fast is in its proper time. But he says if it falls on Shabbat, like it does this year for us, and it's pushed till after Shabbat, the hatan, the kala, the people connected to the Brit Milah, the three special people, are exempt from fasting. He says they eat after they pray Minhag Gedolah. So it's even,
Who says this?
this is Chamad Yosef, right? So he's going even past midday, right? He's telling you Minhag Gedolah. You can't pray Minhag Gedolah till a half hour past midday. Then you have to pray. So it's almost an hour past midday. Then they break the fast and eat.
But is they're exempt or they're not allowed to go further?
No, they're not supposed to go further.
Not
It's their Yom Tov, so they're supposed to eat at that time. So it says wait till they pray Minhag Gedolah. Pray Minhag Gedolah. They can pray the earliest time, right? And then they could eat. Okay.
So the concern being that they are able to say Nanu in the Amidah. Is that why?
So I don't know why he stretched it until Minha, but they will. But the truth is, if you're not completing the fast, you don't say Hanenu.
So if they
Right.
know,
So let's say, for instance, let's say somebody is elderly, right, and he's not supposed to fast. Doctor told him not to fast, and he comes to pray Shacharit. He didn't eat yet,
right?
because you don't eat before you pray. And
Yeah.
maybe he didn't have anything. Maybe he didn't even have a coffee. He didn't have a tea. He didn't have anything yet.
He still won't say Nanu.
He doesn't say Anenu because he's not going to fast for the rest of the day. Right? So if a person's not sure if they're fasting or not, they might eat, then they don't say Anenu. In fact,
Even if you're not sure. So
If-
if you
if-
know you have a
if it's-
50-50.
if it's likely, if it's really not likely that you're going to complete the fast, you have a condition, you're going to try,
Right,
whatever it is.
exactly.
So then you don't say Anenu. In fact, they have some kehilot that the entire congregation doesn't say Anenu till Minha, because they're never sure.
Right.
So they don't want to say it in Shaharit because Shaharit's 7 in the morning.
Right.
Right, but when they get to Minha, okay, they come an hour before it's over, so by the time they pray Minha, pray Arbit and go home, then it's going to be over, so they say it only in Minha. Our custom now is Shaharit and Minha, but...
We don't say Anenu in the morning.
Right, I was just telling him, there's also some Sephardi Kehilot that only say it in Minha. The Hida, the Chaim Yosef David Azulai, wrote that their custom, he was in Turkey in the 18th century, so it said that they only say it in Minha. Right, I made a video about this topic, and it came out unofficially last Wednesday, but it's going to come out more officially this Wednesday. And in it, I discussed the fact that the original custom in Halab, going back 200 years ago, was not only to say Anenu and Shaharit and Minha, but to say it in Arbit as well. And this, all the fasts.
Arbit.
The Arbit the night before when you're still eating.
Right. Wow.
Meaning you come to pray Arbit, you say Anenu, then you go home, you say, okay, I'm fasting tomorrow, what am I eating?
Right.
You have to eat extra. You're eating a whole thing after Arbit. So you say Anenu because it's the day of the fast.
Right.
Because that day is a fast day, even though it doesn't start until the morning.
Right.
So this custom... What's that? Then we do, yeah. Right, but now I'm talking about even Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, or Asara B'Tebet, or Som Gedalia, where you're going to eat after Arbit, because you're going to prepare yourself to fast the next day. So this custom wasn't only a custom in Halab, it was a custom in Tunisia, it was a custom in Morocco, in many Middle Eastern countries, based on the opinion of Maran and Shulchan Aruch. It's based on the opinion of Harambam, the opinion of the Rif, many poskim. You could watch it. It's going to come out, Wednesday afternoon. It'll come out
If you
officially.
get married that night before, not like this, let's say it's a Tuesday.
Right.
It's a home acholi if you can get married Monday night.
Right. Well, that's also according to the custom of no weddings during the 3 weeks.
Right. You don't
So-
have that?
So we do have that in our community, and we had that in Aleppo and in Syria.
Music.
They're not about music. No weddings.
Oh, well.
No weddings, but Hakam Odia Yosef in Israel, in Jerusalem, permits Sephardim to get married up until Rosh Chodesh Ab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A whole week.
Meaning up until, it's more than a week, it's from the 17th until the end of the month, 12 days, for 12 days.
Was about the night of Shavuos of the time is a big finish.
Right,
But some would say no.
right,
You shouldn't get married on any time.
right.
So here we don't get married during the 3 weeks.
The custom is not to get married during the 3 weeks.
Even in Halab we used to have that?
They had the custom in Halab. Yeah.
Really?
And in fact, in Halab, some got engaged, but some didn't even get engaged, right? Or some would get engaged, but they would push the party off till after Tisha B'Av. Right?
So I've heard that the 3 weeks was an add-on, was added later on.
No.
That's why.
It's when you say added
Later on we took up
meaning
on
it's not the law of the Gemara; it's a custom, but it goes back for a few hundred years. In fact, that wasn't only in Halab. You have it be Haim ben Venisti in Turkey, 16th century, 17th century. What's that?
So we always.
It's
did
a
the
few
3
hundred.
weeks.
It's a custom's a few hundred years old.
Okay.
Right. It's not. It's added on like. Shulchan Aruch doesn't require it. Maran and Shulchan Aruch doesn't require it. It's not from the Gemara. It's not from. But it definitely was observed in Aleppo in the last few hundred years. Okay.
We keep throwing out questions about Minhagim.
Yeah, go
What
ahead.
about Tefillin at Mincha?
So that was the custom in Aleppo, was to wear tefillin and mincha on a fast day. We have it documented several places. Yeah. That wasn't originally, was in many Middle Eastern communities, not only in Halab. Interestingly, in Halab itself, in the 20th century, they stopped the custom. I mean, it dissipated, but it continued here in Brooklyn. Right? When we brought it from Halab, when it was still existing in Halab,
Right.
but now if people, the ones that came from Halab in the 90s,
90s,
they don't wear it because it stopped around the 30s. By the 1930s, already in Halab, they weren't wearing it on a fast day. But the original custom is documented in several sources. Yeah.
And in several countries, it was widespread throughout the Middle
So
East.
many countries did it, and in fact, it was originally also the custom in Damascus as well. Right? But the Damascus had stopped probably maybe even prior to Halab. Yeah.
So the Shamis don't put it on?
I think the ones in our community do not.
Chava doesn't bring it down?
So he discusses it in the Beit Yosef. He says that it's in order to have 100 berachot, because you're not eating and drinking that day. Yeah. Okay. So if you forget to say Anenu in the Amidah, you don't repeat the Amidah. Right? It's of course to begin with you say it. As we said, nowadays the custom is Shahrit and Minha. Originally it was Arbit as well. Right? The Hazan says it in the Hazara as a special beracha between Go'el Yisrael and Efa'enu.
Right.
And in order to do that, you have to have 6 people in the minyan that are fasting. Right? Also, in order to have that, the Hazan has to be fasting. So to begin with, you should only appoint a Hazan that's fasting on the fast day. It's only if you're in a situation where there's nobody fasting who's qualified to be the Hazan. So in that case, if you have to send up a Hazan who's not fasting, so he says Anenu in the Hazara and Shomaya Tefillah. Right? He can't say it as an extra beracha because he himself is not fasting. Okay, so also if the fast day doesn't fall on a Monday or Thursday, so whoever goes up to the Sefer Torah in the morning, or really in the afternoon as well, right? Even when it falls on Monday and Thursday, has to be fasting.
What if there's only one Kohen in the shul?
And he's not fasting, so he walks out and you send up a Yisrael.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you say?
What do
Or
you mean?
Levi.
Usually we don't send up a Levi instead of a Kohen. Usually we send up a Yisrael.
Oh.
Is it just when you say El instead of a Kohen? Don't they have a custom to do 3 or 4?
What do you mean?
When they send up Yisrael instead of a Kohen, there's no Kohen in the shul.
Right, so all the Olim are Yisrael.
Right, so it's only the three Olim and that's it?
There's only 3 Olim on the fast day.
Okay.
Right, so you send up 3 Israelim.
Okay.
Same thing for Minha. Right, even if it falls on a Monday or Thursday.
I think it would make more sense to send a Kohen, even though if he's not praying. I mean, he's in the shul. If he's not fasting,
If
rather.
he's not fasting, he can't say the berachot on the Sefer Torah because you wouldn't have a Sefer Torah if it wasn't for the people that were fasting. But you have to have at least 6 people fasting in the minyan to take out the Sefer.
Wow.
Right? When you have Kohanim and Minha, only a Kohen who's fasting
So you
can
can't
go
even
up
do
and make
Birkat
Kohanim.
Kohanim.
And not a Minha.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, and you have to have six people fasting in the room in order to have Birkat Kohanim and Minha. Right? So all of these things. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so Birkat Kohanim is really only done in Minha fast day if you're reciting it within 30 minutes of sunset. But if you pray Minha Gedolah, for instance, on the fast day, so there's no Birkat Kohanim. Because there's a Gezerah not to have Birkat Kohanim in Minha, because people would eat lunch and in the meal often they would serve wine, especially in the times of the Talmud, and the Kohanim wouldn't be fit to make Birkat Kohanim during Minha. Right? And they used to pray Minha earlier, right? Not so close to sunset. So when you're on a fast day, they pray Minha close to sunset, so they say it's like Ne'ilah. Right? Even in Kippur, we don't have Kohanim in Minha. Right? Because right? Even though you're fasting. Same thing on a regular fast day. If you pray Minha earlier, more than 30 minutes before sunset.
But in the book it says if there's time for Kohanim during Minha, you should
No,
say
no.
it. Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry.
That's Ne'ilah.
Sorry, that's Ne'ilah, but I was talking about Vidui
You're
Agadol.
talking about Vidui, right.
Sorry.
Vidui and Ne'ilah. Right. So there's no Kohanim in Minha even on Kippur.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So usually they try to time Minha So you get up to Birkat Kohanim within 30 minutes of sunset. So if you start 35 minutes before, it will be certainly within 30 minutes. So usually now we start even 30 minutes before from the beginning, and you finish Minha with sunset and go right into Arvit. Okay. Okay, so we'll get into some of the customs of the 3 weeks. Right, so now, according to Maran, you could have weddings up until the beginning of Ab, and that's what Chacham Yosef instituted that custom in Yerushalayim. But the original custom in Aleppo and in other Middle Eastern countries was not to perform weddings during the entire 3 weeks. The book Derech Eretz quotes Hakam Yitzhak Zafrani, who says such. We also have Hakam Yitzhak Shahebar documented this custom as well. Right, so even though we usually follow Maran and Harambam, who allow weddings up until Rosh Chodesh Ab, right here we have a custom to be stringent. We have a custom lahmir. Right, it wasn't only in Aleppo. We see this custom documented in Turkey, in Morocco, in Jerba. Jerba is an island near Tunisia. Right, the Ben Ish Hai wrote that the custom in Baghdad was to be stringent. But we have other sources that it seems they were lenient in Baghdad. So we have conflicting reports about the Baghdadian custom. Right, what about getting engaged? So Hakam Yitzhak Za'afrani alav Shalom is quoted as saying couples did get engaged during the 3 weeks. But Hakam Yitzhak Shahebar wrote that they should not have a festive meal in honor of the engagement during the 3 weeks, and he added that it's preferable not to get engaged during this time. So there were those that got engaged during this time in Halab. There were some that didn't. Right? Some felt it was preferable even without a festive meal. Why? Because we want to avoid celebrating a happy occasion during a sad period in the Jewish calendar.
You're allowed to get engaged because the Gemara says even when you're not allowed to.
They say that even on Tisha B'Av.
So
right.
Yeah, even Tisha B'Av.
Right.
So you could. What we do is they just no meal, just the engagement.
Right. Okay. Right. So we want to, when we're focused on a sad period in the Jewish calendar, we want to focus on those events and leave the happy occasions for afterwards. Okay, so again, the custom of not getting married or engaged was also recorded by Rabbi Haim ben Venisti, as we said, in Turkey, 17th century. Rabbi Yitzhak Palachi, also in Turkey in the 19th century. So now, there's the custom to avoid shahayanu during the 3 weeks. So it's whether it's a new garment or if it's a new fruit. Right, so the poskim write that if the fruit is not going to be available after the 3 weeks, so it's better to make shahayanu on the fruit and not miss the berakav shahayanu. Hakam Yosef is lenient with the shahayanu on Shabbat during the 3 weeks. So according to that, if you had a new fruit and it'll stay fresh until Shabbat, now you have refrigeration, so it should, right? So you could leave it for Shabbat. Same thing if you want to wear a new garment during the 3 weeks, you can wear it on Shabbat according to the leniency of Hakam Yosef. But this is only regarding reciting Shahayanu, but it's that you can buy the new clothes or you could wear new clothes that don't require Shahayanu during the 3 weeks. It's really only once you get into the 9 days that you shouldn't buy new clothes or wear new clothes, even if they're not for Shahayanu. Right. Okay, so that's the custom of Shahayanu. There was a custom in Aleppo that they used to sit on the floor every day of the 3 weeks between Minhar Arbit and recite 3 chapters. One chapter was from the last chapter of Echa, right? And they would recite 2 Mizmorim from the Tehillim, right? The last chapter of Echa begins Zechor Adonai Mehayalanu, and also 2 Mizmorim from Tehillim, one on Al Naharot Babel, which we recite on the night of Tisha B'Av, and also the Mizmor Le'asaf Elohim Ba'u Goim Benachalatecha, which we recite on the morning of Tisha B'Av. Later times in Halab, it got limited to the 9 days, meaning from the second day of Ab on. Right? I saw the custom. I saw it once we were praying in Manhattan in one of the buildings, and everyone sat on the floor. Yeah, there was a lot of new halabis in the minyan. Everyone's out on the floor. We read the 3 this morning. Yeah.
I never heard of that before.
Right.
I never heard of that. That's what we do.
Right, you never saw it? You saw it, Jack?
I never saw it.
Right. Okay, I've seen it a few times. Right. Okay. So you have question comes up, can you have parties? Can you listen to music? Right? They also ask about all of those questions during the 3 weeks. So Chacham Yosef writes that it's preferable not to listen to music during the 3 weeks. What's it based on? So there's a gezerah, a decree that the rabbis made after the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, not to listen to live music. No more live music since the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. It's customary to be lenient and have live music for a mitzvah. So certainly if you have a wedding, a hatan, a kala, right, all 7 days of the celebration, it's a seudat mitzvah. So it's customary to be lenient on a seudat mitzvah. Let's say you have Hala Moed, you want to have a celebration with music, live music, so we have it. Right, so that's really, if it's live music, we're only lenient if we're having celebrating some sort of mitzvah. There's those that say anytime the Hazanim are singing Shirot Tishbachot Hashem, that's also a mitzvah, and they're lenient even in that case. But if there's no mitzvah whatsoever, according to Maran, according to Rambam, you can't have live music since the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. So what about recorded music? So recorded music becomes a difference of opinion. Some say it's part of the same gezerah. Others say no. It's even if they would have included it had it existed, but since it didn't exist, so on a technicality, it's not in the gezerah. You can listen to recorded music, and the custom is to be lenient with recorded music during the year. Chacham Yosef says, okay, so the custom is to be lenient, but when you have a sad time, like the 3 weeks or the Omer, yesh la'ahmir. He says yesh la'ahmir, means he's not absolutely forbidding it. He doesn't say it's asur, but it's a recommended stringency to refrain from listening to even recorded music during the 3 weeks. With regards to parties, Chacham Yosef is stringent. So he says if it's you're not celebrating an actual mitzvah, so that you shouldn't have parties with music. He bases this on the opinion of some later authorities, the Ben Magen Abraham, the Ben Ish Hai, right? So he doesn't allow parties if you're not celebrating an actual mitzvah. But if you're celebrating an actual mitzvah, in that case, so he's lenient. Let's see what he says. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see if he mentions it here. Right, so he says B'simchat mitzvah. If you have this is during the 3 weeks, you're celebrating a mitzvah. You have a hatana kala, or you have a brit milah, baby was born. Brit milah occurs during the 3 weeks. Pidyon haben, even a bar mitzvah, right? The boy's 13th birthday comes during the 3 weeks. Or siyum masechta, mutar lishma shirei kodesh hamilavim beklei negina. So he allows even live musical instruments in honor of these occasions. Shekol shi simcha. Right, so he's lenient with regards to even live music if you're celebrating a mitzvah. Do you have any questions?
Was it that said live music? We make it with mitzvah?
Chacham Yosef, yeah. Yosef. Okay.
Thank you.
Go him soon.
Dish?